So here's our one and only to-do. When the user inputs a username, update it in the model. We'll look at how the email input below does this. Okay, so if we delete this and we compare these two fields on the form, so we've got right here username, email, and password. And each of these has sort of a placeholder in there, so placeholder of username, placeholder of email, placeholder of password. And then they've got a value which corresponds to the form.username and form.email, which is Elm's going to fill that in with whatever value is currently in the model. And then we see that email has on input entered email, but this view form, the username branch does not. So we're going to put something in there on input entered username. On input, by the way, so now that we're in solutions mode, I can actually explain what some of these things do. On input essentially is an event that fires whenever the user types into a text box or when they edit it in some other way. For example, you can right-click and hit cut. You can right-click and hit paste. There are various ways other than typing on the keyboard that you can edit an input field. On input is so named because the event name that actually gets broadcast from the DOM node is called input. It's like quote input. That's the name of the event. This sometimes surprises people coming from React because React calls this on change. I think the reason they did that was that they didn't like the name on input, but Elm went with what the browser went with. So it's called on input because that's what the browser calls it. We didn't rename it to on change. There's a separate change event that only fires when it loses focus, and then that's a separate event in Elm's terminology. So on input is a very common thing that you end up using in practice for handling things like user input, where you want to handle keystrokes as well as when they are edit, cut, and edit, paste, and all that good stuff. Okay, on input is also a function which expects a function. So onClick wanted just a message, but on input actually wants a string to message function because it's going to be sending you the string that the user is typing in. In other words, event.target.value in JavaScript parlance. Now this right here is not going to compile. If I go back over here into Elm Make and I run this again, it's going to say naming error. I cannot find an entered username constructor. These names seem close though. Entered email, username, entered password. Well, that's helpful, but unfortunately, it's not that I mistyped it. It's just that thing does not exist. So let's go make it exist. So if I go back up here in my message custom type, we have entered email, which holds onto a string. We have entered password, which holds onto a string. I'm just going to go ahead and add another one for entered username. And once again, we want that to hold on to a string. So this is sort of again, the description of what happened, right? User entered an email, user entered a password, user entered a username. Excellent. All right, so now we're done, right? Oh no, what is this? Missing patterns. This case does not have branches for all possibilities. So it's got entered email, entered password, submitted form. This is going to be a case expression on our update. Missing possibilities include entered username. So we did add it to our message type, but we forgot to actually implement it. I would have to crash if I saw one of those. Add branches for them. Okay, fair enough, fair enough. All right, how do we add the branch for that? Well, we've got some nice modeling here in the form of entered email and entered password. We can just basically copy paste what we did there and do the same thing because we want this fundamentally to work the same way. So we'll say entered username, give the string that's held in there the name of username, and then we've got this update form helper function. I'm not going to jump into the implementation of that, although it's not really doing a whole lot. Except to note that we can just sort of look at the pattern of this code and say, okay, it takes a form and then it's doing a record update on that form to put whatever changed value we have into the form. So it's just storing it. So form username equals username. Everything else is the same. Recompile. Hey, success. And let's see if it actually worked. So I'm going to register as RT Feldman. Email is rtfeldman@example.com. This is not my real email address. Don't send email there. Password is going to be blah, blah. I don't mind saying that out loud because this is my local server, so it's not like anyone can hack me. And we'll hit sign up and promptly get a server error. Unfortunately, as much as Elm can help with problems on the front end, it still can't prevent things from breaking on the back end. But at least now we were able to successfully type something in here, type in the email, and have it successfully send the form to the server, whereas before it was just always clearing that thing out.